An anatomist will tell you this on a good day. They will tell you that it's very hard to understand the pelvic floor. If you're aware of pelvic anatomy and its evolution, you have a good handle, I believe, on things that Pilates people, physical therapists, great many therapists of all sorts are aware of, and that is try to be aware of how to do exercises on the perineum and the pelvic floor. It's part of the core, so in order to hold that whole abdomen in, this is the part basically holding the core anatomy in this way. With all that pressure, there is this Kegel designed to train it to lift and to keep its tonus up, so it tends to be a bit more tense. It's an interesting area, I'll explain in a minute, but if you understand that ventral tail muscles create part of our pelvic floor, you can talk to those muscles. You can ask those muscles, if you know that, if the anatomy is in your bones, right? If you've built it, then you can enter that conversation more easily than any other way that I know. You can speak to your ventral tail muscles, ask the tip of your tail, which could be some feet in front of you, to come up to navel height, and those muscles will contract in a very focused way. You're actually not sort of clenching everything, trying to do it in this big diffuse thing. You're using a very intelligent exercise. It's very, very hard to dissect. If the primary technique is dissection, it's elusive as anything. There is no bone down the center. These muscles are actually pulling on a raphe, a seam, that handles from side to side. The seam is, there's a couple of hiatuses in the seam, one for your urethra and one for the vagina and the penis. But they are, so it means that the muscle is not going bone to bone, it's going bone to seam. And that alone is a bit confusing to people. When you activate the muscles on both sides of this thing, the seam is the structure that is pulled up into that Kegeling pose. The musculature of the pelvic floor, because of that seam and not having bone-to-bone direct connections for the muscles, and because of the extra layer of tail muscles, it's basically feels like and looks like it's kind of glued together with mucilage. It's kind of a messy connective tissue operation, much less discrete looking in terms of dissection. Building it from the inside out, because all dissections going the other direction, you're necessarily crossing the more complex muscles to get into the deep anatomy. When you're building it, starting from the inside and working out, you're immediately looking, you start with the simplest ideas, the simplest requirements and the simplest solutions, and then build outwards from there. So you're starting from the simplest and going to the most complex, which seems to me a good idea in a great many things, if not everything. In this scale, you can build, or we have built over and over with those classes for medical and anatomy professors. I build dorsal and ventral plexi of the sacrum and the lumbar, the lumbosacral plexi, which really clarify the function of the whole system.